let us reflect. Our memories, Sunday school. Whatever your age may be, 7, 10, going to university. Your university years could be in front of you. It could be behind you. Perhaps you may be even thinking of going again. I have with me a crown, okay? The crown of thorns. Now, the usual storybooks, we don't come across a crown of thorns. Now, it'd be a diamond, ruby, emerald. Think of the Queen of England. You don't ever see her or any other royalty with a crown of thorns. So, what's going on here? How many fairy tales do we have a crown of thorns? As I leave this here, okay, for all of you to look at, you can ask. Ask your mom and dad, or whoever else that you may be at home with, what do these thorns mean to you? Because it's very different. If this was a crown, and this is a ruby, a sapphire, an emerald, radiating its beautiful light, a crown of thorns is very different, invokes suffering. There's a lot of humility. The folks who are underprivileged, downtrodden, the folks whose voices we do not hear from, a very different message. As we have a crown of thorns. What do the thorns mean? This could mean something you really don't want to do. Whether you're a teenager, 20-something, whether you could be 70-something. This thorn could mean something which is not ideal. We could be experiencing that right now. This wasn't the way Easter was done before, but we do have a crown of thorns still with us. And through Christ, these thorns will be able to be worn and transformed. And as we continue the transformation and the love of Christ, let's turn this thorn into love and lift that in song. Emotions, fear and love. Fear. That's an easier one we can identify with. You look right behind me at the cross, that I'd be scared, terrified, awful. Imagine dying on the cross. Say the word dying, because that's really what happened. And I used to say that myself after my own parents died, passed. It's understandable, because the word death can be a little bit sting, a little more. However, Jesus doesn't die of old age. He doesn't die of a heart attack. It's not an accident with a camel. No. It's the cross. And it's brutal, and it's awful, and it's painful. It is really excruciating. He's tortured. That's what goes on. Yeah. Good Friday. Especially, folks, people who knew. I'd have this question when I was in university. People just exploring different religions and maybe coming from countries where the dominant faith tradition could be secularism. There isn't. There's could be beliefs such as ancestor worship. So this idea of crucifixion and the word good on the same day is puzzling. But let's look deeper into the word good. And let's see what we discover. 3 weeks ago, when I was reading Jeremiah 31:33, words, I will write the law into their hearts, I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Today, Hebrews 10:16, we shall write the law We shall be their God. They are our people. See the parallels there? Old Testament connecting in with the New, First Testament connecting right in with the Second Testament. Prophecies before Jesus is born, now connecting to when he is born, crucified, and after he is risen. Verse 22, when Mary read to us, through the blood of Christ, the crucifixion, we have the confidence, enter this sanctuary. But the verses, what really struck me, and that's what I'm going to be focusing on in Hebrews, is 24 and 25. These particular verses challenge us, how do we provoke one another to love? Now, isn't that interesting? Provoke your neighbor to love and do good deeds. That gives us a little light on the word good in Good Friday. That from this cross, might not see it at first, but there is good. There is light emanating from it. Right in Hebrews 20, verses 24 and 25, how do we provoke each other to do good? Especially when we look at the cross. And this day, out of the entire Christian calendar, it's probably the most appropriate day. Let's do that together. When we look at the cross, and what does that mean for us? Because that's where Jesus dies. Let's look at it. Look at that cross. Let's take a moment. Do you remember the crown of thorns I brought out earlier? Jesus dies an awful death on the cross. The indignation, the King of the Jews, a crown of thorns. It's not something I don't think anyone would choose to die this way. It's awful. But as we look around, the situations we find ourselves in, I mentioned earlier that what do these thorns mean? What does it mean within our community of faith? Because in the previous history of the church, when I wasn't here, I'm guessing that the Good Friday service, there are probably many people in the sanctuary, along with, of course, the Easter Sunday service. But it's different. There's some thorns that we have to deal with. And the thorns aren't going away anytime soon. But these thorns can mean many different things within the history of the Christian faith. A story that I want to share with you, my first trip to Israel, Palestine, the Holy Land, right there in the city of Jerusalem. Walking in to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. The final 5 stations of the cross, total of 14, are at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, including crucifixion of Christ. The body is taken down of the cross, and of course, Easter Sunday, the resurrection. For me, just for myself, it was really an incredible moment, especially when I read the verses around Easter time. The memories are triggered. The verses change. And a little aside, it's something I would love to do, is one day in the future, if a group of us could go together, pilgrimage to Israel, Palestine, and Jerusalem. That would be incredible. Save that for another conversation. We also went, our guide took us to the Garden Tomb. Okay? Exactly the way we read in the Bible. It's actually a closer match. The Garden Tomb, according to biblical scripture, than the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. You walk into the tomb. The stone is rolled away. And there was an interesting comment in our group. Comment was the words, "Oh, this is our site." This is our site. That's interesting. What does that mean? Especially today, Good Friday. We're not the only church celebrating Good Friday. No. There's many other churches, other Christian denominations, which are also recognizing Good Friday, and it's a big deal. This is our site referred. There's two locations, folks. There's the Roman Catholic Church of the Holy Sepulchre site, crucifixion of Jesus, Golgotha. There's the Protestant site, the crucifixion, resurrection of Jesus. Both there on your screen. Now let's look at them both. Even in our community, right here in Bobcaygeon, but many other communities around the world, you have both Protestant and Catholic recognizing this significant day. When I looked earlier, when I asked you, we're going to do that again. We'll leave this here, these images. Let's turn around. Well, I'll be turning around. And look at the cross behind me. Now, when you see that cross, could you hear Jesus saying, "This is your site"? Does that make sense to you? It doesn't make sense to me. Folks, Catholic, Protestant, Anglican, Baptist, Lutheran, Pentecostal, Christ died for all. His love is universal, and he's Jewish. The disciples are Jewish. It's not just Judeo-Christian tradition. Its love is universal. It's for all. I've said this other times when I've been standing here. Christ, his teachings to love your neighbor as yourself. Your neighbors are not either Catholic or Protestant or Jewish. There's many others. Religious traditions folks identify with, and some who identify with none. So, going back to this is our site. How does that make you feel? Maybe not a lot of messages from the pulpit. The minister, the priest, maybe talking about that. That this is our site, is everyone's site. That whether it is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, whether it is the Garden Tomb, I don't know, and I don't think anybody knows the exact location approximately 2,000 years ago where Jesus was crucified on which hill, which... It's like someone selling you a piece of the true cross. How do they know? Much more important, the crucifixion's very real. And Jesus died for all. It's not just Catholic and Protestant. It's for all. And focus on that word, all. I'm going to put another image on the screen. Okay? This tomb, just like described in the newspaper, the tombs of Jesus, is in Rosabal, Kashmir. That's something you usually don't hear about. But it's real. It's there. There is a group, a community from the Muslim tradition who believes that the image you're seeing is the location where Jesus, not crucified, but was buried and he rested there in peace. When I look at this story, no one finances the disciples, their journey, their mission. They're called from God to go, right out of Matthew, the Great Commission, and proclaim the good news. They're doing it on their own. They can't go to the local bank, the temple, and get the temple priest to give them some extra shekels. They have to do it on their own. And look how far the story, the crucifixion, without the help of Pontius Pilate, without the help of Emperor Tiberius in Rome, who also had the title Son of God, Divius Filus in Latin. They did it on their own. Whether it be the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, whether it be the Garden Tomb, the story, the experience, the love, the crucifixion of Jesus, it appeared in India, the Thomas Christians. Our book club, the Jesus Sutras, it appeared in China. No one has Twitter, TikTok, Facebook. No one's financing these disciples. The crown of thorns I had earlier, the disciples are transforming these thorns, taking that pain, taking that fear, transforming it into love. So, when I look, let's do it again. Look at that cross. For me, it's the be-all and end-all, why I ended up going into ministry, why I'm here. It is the cross. For me, it's very significant. So as we go forward, those thorns, the crown of thorns I was talking about, if there is a thorn with yourself, with the church, community of faith, how do we transform that as we go forward? Because we are going to go forward. This is not just a challenge within our community of faith. Right in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, go for Easter service. Of course, it'll be according to the Latin rite. It'll look like a Roman Catholic Mass, which it is. Sometimes, because of the calendars, the Orthodox Christians follow something called a Julian calendar, which is 1 week behind the Gregorian. So right now, it's Good Friday, Orthodox tradition, Russian, Greek Orthodox. It is Palm Sunday. So sometimes you have a service which is not yet complete, and then you'll have another group of Christians coming in for Palm Sunday, and sometimes they may collide. Now you'd think, well, they're just all Christians, they love each other. That's what I'd like to think, but unfortunately sometimes arguments break out, and you need the soldiers to separate, are you ready for this? Priests who may be fighting. Doesn't that sound strange? Can you see Jesus on the cross saying that? Once your service is finishes, wait till another one. If they start, no. The thorns, the crown of thorns. Transform those thorns. Listen to each other. Love each other. The crucifixion only happens once. Doesn't happen twice, doesn't happen 3 times. It just happens once. There's only one resurrection, and that's it. So this Good Friday, here it is, Good Friday. The light coming forth from the cross. Let's look at our neighbors. Whether they may be United Church, whether they may be Roman Catholic, whether they may be Baptist, Lutheran, Pentecostal, Anglican. And let's love them as ourselves. It doesn't matter how our neighbor identifies. Christ has died, he will rise, and he will return soon. Amen. And what do these mean, these thorns, especially in light of the cross behind me? What do these thorns mean for your journey of faith? Let's reflect on that on this day, the day Christ died for us out of love.